In November 2022, a small company in San Francisco uploaded a chatbot to the internet. There was no press release and no launch event, just a link and a blinking cursor. This graph tracks the timeline of that adoption. Within 5 days, 1 million people had used it. Within 2 months, that number hit 100 million. It was the fastest adoption of a consumer product in recorded history. Then, the momentum stalled. Traffic fell, and the headlines calling it the Google killer went quiet. The company's CEO went to Washington, raised his right hand before Congress, and returned to San Francisco, having offered the public very little clarity about what the product would actually become. OpenAI now faced a specific paradox. They had created a global phenomenon, but that phenomenon was rapidly shifting from a technical miracle into a piece of ordinary utility. Those 100 million early users look impressive on paper, but the raw total hid a serious problem. The vast majority of those people visited exactly once. They typed a prompt, got an answer, and went right back to Google. This chart shows the reality of that early traffic. By June 2023, desktop visits dropped nearly 10%, and bounce rates started climbing. OpenAI had built something people wanted to try, rather than something they needed to use every day. At the same time, the original free model was beginning to feel slow. Paying $20 a month for the premium tier to watch a bot hallucinate basic facts started to look like a poor investment. While the product stalled, the company itself fractured. In November 2023, Sam Altman was fired on a Friday and rehired by Monday. That weekend of chaos was the result of a divide between researchers focused on safety and investors who prioritized market speed. Because that contradiction never resolved, the company experienced a methodical exodus. Chief scientists and engineers quietly left the building, taking years of institutional knowledge with them. OpenAI found itself internally divided and losing talent at the exact moment its biggest rivals finally caught up. The market was suddenly crowded. Google accelerated Gemini, Meta released Llama for free, and the researchers who had walked out of OpenAI launched their own competitor, Claude. This triggered a cycle known as commoditization. It happens when a pioneer can no longer differentiate its product and is forced to compete solely on feature parity and price. In AI, technical advantages are measured in months. By early 2024, Anthropic's Claude 3 Opus scored higher on reasoning benchmarks than GPT-4, signaling that the OpenAI moat had collapsed. Enterprise customers noticed the shift immediately. Procurement teams don't buy based on brand, they buy based on benchmarks. They started selecting models strictly on which provided the highest reasoning scores for the lowest cost. OpenAI responded by accelerating their release schedule, rolling out voice modes and image generation to try and keep some distance between themselves and the rest of the market. But the features couldn't mask the underlying reality. ChatGPT was no longer a solitary miracle. It had become a generic category, allowing users to shop around for the best price. Financially, the numbers are clear. With 100 million weekly active users and $5 billion in revenue, ChatGPT reached a scale few software products ever touch. But while the financial success is real, ChatGPT lost the aura of being the only viable future. The magic that captivated users in 2022 is now the baseline expectation. It is the absolute minimum a consumer expects from a computer. This follows the historical path of infrastructure. Electricity once seemed like a miracle. Today, it is a utility we only notice when it stops working. Artificial intelligence is becoming the standard mechanism for how the modern world operates, present, expected, and increasingly ordinary. The final legacy of ChatGPT is that it acted as the match for a fire that now burns far beyond OpenAI's control.